All right. I'm Zach Scapono. I'm one of the backend software engineers here at Boon AI. And today I wanted to go over an integration that we put together to work with an outside asset management system. So one of our customers came to us. They were a major movie studio, and they already had an asset management system that they used for everything. In this case, it was Fifth Kind. Since they have the asset management system already in their workflow, they're really interested in using us to add ML analysis to all of the assets that they already have. So we get this question quite a bit. And so we put together an integration to handle the syncing and the running of all of the assets and doing all of that back into Fifth Kind so that they didn't have to worry about anything. So I'll give you a quick overview of the architecture for it. Here's the process flow. So assets come into Fifth Kind here over on the right, and we set up two services in the middle here. One pulls them from Fifth Kind, runs them in Boon AI, and then using some webhooks that we set up, Boon AI lets a cloud function know that an asset is done processing, and the cloud function puts all of the data back into Fifth Kind. So if you see here, this is a project I have set up over in a Fifth Kind environment, and we have a number of assets here. We had a polling service sitting in the background. It kicked off and it pulled these out and it put them over into Boon AI. It ran analysis on a number of them. So if I click on this guy, you can see that we have some results here from AWS label detection came back. We have some category detection, etc. When this asset was done running, Boon AI let our little cloud function know, hey, we're done. Go ahead and update Fifth Kind. And if I come back into Fifth Kind and look at an asset here, once it loads, we should see the metadata that came back. So over here on the right, you can see here's the metadata we got back from our service. It added the Boon AI stuff that we put together, those results from AWS and some from Azure. So it's a simple integration. It didn't take a lot of work outside of getting everything set up. Maybe a couple days just on my part to write everything from scratch. And now we have a fully fledged integration with a third-party asset management system. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, Danny.
Yeah, I was just curious, like, what's the studio using this resulting metadata for?
They're using it to enhance their search capabilities. So they have a long history of previous material, post-production material, pre-release content, post-release content, etc. And when you have all of that in an asset management system like this, organizing it and finding it can be very difficult. So, here, even in my small example, I uploaded less than 100 assets, and I ended up with 7 different high-level groupings of assets, which is great. That was 100 assets. When you're a major company with millions upon millions of assets, finding these things after the fact, knowing who organized them, knowing how they were organized over time can be really difficult. And so when you have something like this, where like in our example, you're searching for maybe specific people, specific labels, specific landmarks, using the analysis you get back from us, you can search for that data because we're taking all that data and putting it back into your asset management system directly. John.
Yay, this is John Bullock with Boon AI. I just had a question about third-party asset management systems. Are most of them fairly similar? Can you take lessons learned from this integration and apply them to other vendors?
I think we can. Every third-party system is going to be a little different. Technically, what they support can be different, even in this example. So for us, we wanted to design our integrations around a system called webhooks, which is essentially just kind of like a notification where we send off notification to someone and say, hey, we're done with whatever we're doing. Go ahead and handle it. In this case, Fifth Kind didn't support that. So we just wrote that service in the middle to talk to them directly using their API. Most services at this level all offer APIs of some sort. So with a little bit of minor tweaking, we can integrate with anyone else. If they have webhooks, we can do it even faster. Overall, it should be pretty scalable and easy to apply to other companies.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. Mark.
Yeah, Zach. So is this integration to Fifth Kind specific to this customer, or could any Fifth Kind customer leverage what was done here?
Yeah, it's a good question. So in this case, the way the system was configured is working just for their project, but the settings are all very easily configurable. So with like 20 seconds of work, it will work for whatever you want. You can customize what assets are going to be pulled out of Fifth Kind. You can customize the ML you want with just a couple text. You just type a couple words to change things, and it runs off that. So it'll apply to pretty much everyone.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Annie.
So I've heard you also have this tool called Scrounger in case people don't have an asset management system, or they're not, or if they have several. Can you talk about how that might work?
Yeah. So Scrounger is essentially like a example integration that we put together that lives outside of Fifth Kind. And it is a very, very, very simple asset management system that just looks at the assets you have in your Boon AI project, like we have here, and essentially puts more of a asset management style view on top of these. So Scrounger is meant to show an example of how an integration could work. And what we have here is an example of an actual integration that would work in production. So a real product versus essentially like a theoretical product that people can build on, which is what Scrounger was meant to be. So, Danny.
Yeah, I was curious about the deployment. How long did it take you to deploy it? Kind of how does that work?
Yeah, so in this scenario, the integration can be set up a number of different ways. So for our project here, the deployment was very simple because I have the polling service part that pulls assets from Fifth Kind just sitting on my machine in between, running in the background. And then the cloud function is deployed in our GCP project where we normally run all of our different services. Each one of those can be deployed wherever a customer would prefer. So maybe a customer is using Azure or AWS. We could deploy the cloud function in whatever serverless computing architecture those cloud services have. And as for the polling service itself, the customer could run it locally on-prem. If they are using one of the other cloud providers, we could deploy it as a Docker container in there, run it on a VM. There's really a lot of options. It's just whatever the customer would desire.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for your questions, guys. If you have any questions, go ahead and email us, and we can get back to you and take care of you.